This episode of the Coarse Grind Podcast has been brought to you by Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, family-owned and operated screen printing and embroidery business located in a historic storefront on Old Berwick Road in the heart of Espy. They've been doing screen printing for over 20 years. They have high-quality product at a low price. Be sure to check them out. Central Sports and Graphics Incorporated, 570-784-1212. Now, on to the show.
Hi, this is David Viana, and you're listening to Sean Rossler at the Coarse Grind Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is episode number 113 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. With you as always this evening, host creator Sean Rossler. How is everyone doing this evening? You know, tonight we have a bit of a divergence, let's say, if you will. It's both a type of guest we've never had before, and if I'm to be fair, it's a bit of a personal indulgence into a scene, a culture that I've been a part of for 20 plus years, but I've never really talked to someone about, specifically from our dear old Bloomsburg. Tonight's guest has seen the majority of Bloomsburg at both their best and their worst, present company included, and never ever made you feel weird about it. He's part drinking buddy, part priest, part counselor, and all bartender. One of the most legendary, if not the, in my opinion, that Bloomsburg has ever had to offer. Sorry, Alec. As careers go, though, he's evolved from when I first came to know him and has become the regional sales manager for a fabulous brewery in the area that some of you might recognize from the Coarse Grind Podcast, Rusty Rail Brewing Company. When I think about it, it really should be someone like this guest doing that very gig, and others similar to it, because who else could possibly have the interpersonal knowledge it would take to do so? The best part to all this, though, is that once we get past the years served, the credentials, and the accolades, this guy is not only a dear friend of mine, but of my family's. And let's just say I think this interview is long overdue. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, tonight's guest, the man you think of when you say bartender in Bloomsburg in the same sentence, and currently the regional sales manager of Rusty Rail Brewing Company, Mr. Dan Henrickson. What's going on, Danny?
Hey, how are you, Sean?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for taking the time this evening. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. That's a hell of an intro. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, keep it in your back pocket. Anytime you need a little ego boost, you just kind of hit play on that. But not like you need ego boost these days. Not that you ever have, for that matter. But that's a whole other story. You know, again, part of the concept of the interview this evening is that, you know, for as many food and very, you know, dining-centric guests as we've had, we tend to neglect the drink side of things. And so what I want to do is, with your help, obviously, land on how you landed in it and how you've navigated through it. So for folks new to the program, for folks with shitty short-term memories, like myself, starters, mains, and afters. Starters, we're going to talk about where the guest in question has come from. Mains, we're going to talk about what they're doing presently, and afters, a little bit more irreverent, a little bit more off the cuff, but no one's been injured in 112 episodes, so I'm hoping it doesn't happen this evening. So without further ado, Mr. Dan Henrickson, that's fucked up. Danny, tell me about where and what you grew up eating, and here's the plus, and drinking, and go.
Sure, yeah. So I'm originally from Bloomsburg as well, born and raised. You know, my family, we're a tight knit group. My childhood memories reflect back on my parents are just both phenomenal cooks. Some of the best meals I've ever had. You know, even just this weekend, I was just home having a home cooked meal from my mother. So you know, it's something that I was born and raised on. It's something that even I do. And today, yeah. You know, I'm single. I'll cook for myself all the time. So
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah,
and then as far as
so, like, right away, you know, I think you have to ask, like, you know, for obviously so many chefs as we have on, you know, of course they're into food, right? But as a drink guy, you're into food. Do the two have to go hand in hand, do you think, to be really good at what you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the time, if you're out having a really good meal, then nothing sets off a meal quite as much as a really good crafted beer or some nice wine. I think they just go hand in hand. The aromas, the flavors, they all just blend perfectly, and it's always been a big part of growing up in an Italian family. It's been wine. It's always been kind of poured around, and then just throughout my my bartending and my career through the restaurant industry, it always helps, for sure.
Yeah, see, he's good, because present day Rusty Rail obviously is beer, so that's the first thing he mentions. He's good like that. He knows what he's doing, kids. But trust me,
I know where my paycheck gets.
That's right. I love beer. I love beer first. Trust me when I say some of the best cocktails I've ever had in my existence have been from this man, and never a disappointment. So it's only natural, I think, that you gravitated towards this, that you've come into this. So before we get too far ahead of our history lesson, obviously two really good cooks. Growing up as parents, were you a picky eater or were you a pretty tolerant eater?
I was definitely pretty tolerant. There was just like any other child growing up. Sure, there's some vegetables that you tend to throw under the table for the dog for scraps.
Sure.
But your palate changes as you grow older. So, but yeah, like the Brussels sprouts when I was younger, I was never into. Now I absolutely love them. Some of the greens, but it was always like, okay, well, you're not leaving the table until you finish them, so you find a way to finish it,
Yep. No, I absolutely. And, I think, too, to speak to the evolution, back when we were growing up, I can say we were of a similar age bracket.
Of course, yeah.
You're younger, I get it. Shut up. I think, I don't think food and drink had evolved to where it is today. So Brussels sprouts back then, yeah, they sucked hind tit, but now, you put some coconut oil, you put some bacon, you put some lardones with it, some nice crispy garlic. Yeah, of course you're going to want to eat it, just like...
Of course I'm going to like it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, the Pabst and the Schlitz and the shit like that your old man used to drink. That's not the beer we're talking about today, kids. And we'll get more into that as we dive deeper into Rusty Rail. But before we, get to the age of 21, get to drinking age like we all waited for, again, two great cooks as parents, crazy jealous. What are some of the foods you miss the most from that time frame?
Oh, man. My mom makes just like a phenomenal homemade meatloaf.
Nice.
Anything Italian. Even right after I graduated from high school, she got herself a homemade pasta maker. So she loves to sit around. She makes her own sauce as well, her own Italian gravy. Some people will call it. She's a magician in there.
That's how you know he's legit, folks.
Yeah,
he called it gravy. He didn't fuck around there.
It's just spending time.
Yeah.
It's just spending time, too, in the kitchen, hanging out with the people that you love and just socializing. That's a big part of it as well. For food and beer is the socialization part of it.
You see, he brought it back to beer again, kids. This is the professional we're dealing with here. He is not fucking around tonight. So looking back and thinking forward rather to where you are, because obviously, even though, maybe you're not food, but your drink, somebody culinarily had to have influenced you to push you in this direction. And looking back, who would you say the greatest culinary influence was on you? Now, you can say it's a tie between your parents, because nobody wants to be that guy that calls one parent out over the other. So if it's a tie, that's fine. I'm going to give you that leash, but was it
I'll
them?
tell you what, man. I don't know if it was anybody in specific, but there was a lot of times too where I would come home, especially after bartending in town. You come home, you hang out with some friends or whatever, and somehow, some way, the TV always kind of gravitates towards the Food Network late night. 3-4 o'clock in the morning, and you're seeing these guys just absolutely just dominating their profession and making some amazing things. And especially 3 o'clock in the morning after a full shift, you tend to get hungry. So then you gravitate towards some of those things. So I don't know if it was anybody in particular, but man, I just there's nothing like a good 2-hour Food Network session for sure.
See, and so that's the point. Now, with the background in check, we've heard about it. We've kind of done our due diligence on Dan Henrickson. We know where he's coming from. So this is where most people who are of my age group or younger, know you. And I think a lot of us come into a bar, and I think actually, goddamn, the only other bartender I've had was actually Ocean City, Maryland's Bartender of the Year 2 years running, Keith Raffensperger. I had on, and this is going back to single digits, I think. So obviously it's been a while. So this is good because I kind of want to sing the song of the unsung hero, who is the barkeep. You guys, I think so many people go into a bar and they bang on the bar, or they put their hand up, or they wave their 20, or they do whatever to get your attention. They expect their drink and they tip like shit. It's such a ridiculous culture, but you guys hustle more than, I shouldn't say more than, let's not enemy each other, as much as the people in the kitchen. You're just doing it with liquid. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. And that's an extremely fair statement, too, to say that, you don't want to put us against each other. We're all in it together. We kind of have the front lines. We're out there actually having to deal with the people and having them screaming back and forth at each other. But, I'm sure you've had plenty of chefs, and they'll tell you, it kind of, in behind the doors, there's a lot of yelling and stuff going on, even though we're all family and we're all a part of it. It's like it all comes back to them. And, we're kind of the front lines out there, breaking the wave, so to speak.
Yeah.
And having to deal with these people. But yeah, I mean, it's a hectic job. I did it for almost 20 years. There was a lot of things that I loved about it, but, I would definitely say we were a united front between kitchen and bar for sure.
So, yes, you were a united front, but when the kitchen falls short, it falls to you guys to make here's a drink on the house, right? And you got to fit that in. You got to keep them happy.
Yeah, you got to make them happy for sure. Because you're like I said, you're the kind of the face, you're the front. You kind of have to wine and dine these people and entertain them for sure. I was pretty fortunate to have a long career where I didn't have to make up a lot of ground when it came to the kitchen staff, or there were just a couple places that were, more, heavily nightclub-esque and not so much food. But anytime that I've always had that correlation, it was pretty smooth. We had a good relationship.
All right, so let's
I'm easy to get along with.
Yeah, yes, you are. Yeah, very easy to get along with, as a lot of folks in Bloom would tell you about this man. So one thing I want to do, so we're going to break out of the typical main structure because it wouldn't fit, it wouldn't be right. I want to learn more. I want to know everything there is to know about the Dan Henrickson School of Bartending. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to start here. Tell everybody from year 1 to year 20, everywhere in Bloomsburg. If you went to Bloomsburg University, folks, listen up. Where did you bartend, Danny?
Well, so you got to start with my original roots. When I first started bartending, was fresh out of high school. I got a gig working for a golf course, and I was doing weddings and stuff like that. So really, it was wine and champagne and stuff, and a little bit of serving. And halfway through that summer, Applebee's had just come into town. So that's definitely dating myself and putting me on record
you old shit.
Saying that, yes, I was one of the original Applebee employees. So yeah, when Applebee's came into town, I then learned the corporate side of things.
Yeah.
Corporate structure, very, very rigid as far as pouring and everything else like that.
Yep.
And then as things progressed, I moved down to the beach 3 summers in a row. So you had mentioned that the other bartender that you've had on before was from Ocean City. I happened to bartend down in Ocean City for 3 summers in a row. Some of the best times of my life, and bringing it back full circle to where I'm at now. Just a real quick, the opening up in Delaware for me has been something that I've always wanted. It's been a huge part of my life. So, it's almost been that 22 years in the making to get back there.
Yeah.
But after 3 summers in Delaware and in Ocean City, then I came back to Bloom and I worked for the Hummels at Harry's.
Yep.
That was some of the best times of my life. Great music, great people to work for. Man, you talk about the transition, what you've seen at Harry's. It used to be that building was put in this town, one of the first original buildings, and it was made for the carpet factory, for those employees to come in, have a place to sleep, eat, and drink. So the owner of this carpet factory was genius, and it's been family owned forever. And from the day one when I started bartending there, it was a little more fine dining. We had lobster tail on the menu, and I was doing a lot of Cosmos and martinis. And then all of a sudden, 10 years after, it's a college bar, and you're slinging $1 rum and Coke specials to hopefully not too many, but maybe some underage patrons.
Why no? What do you mean? That never happens.
Over to nobody ever gets in underage in a college town. Never happens. They never sneak in. And then over to Capitol for a few years, where I had the benefits of working with some great people there. And then I got the job with Rusty Rail, and that's my current job now. So
the rest, as they say, is history. So I mean, legitimately, when I say it, and it's so weird, I've interviewed a handful of friends on the show, and it's always weird, like, building the person up, because I think we both kind of feel awkward. But like, literally, dude, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, you are truly what is the embodiment of a good bartender, of a great bartender. For all those aspects that I said in the intro, you're part friend, part priest, part, partner, all these different things. I think if you're to be a good one that is memorable, like Keith Raffensberg, and I'll have to look up the place that he was at, because I don't know, maybe you guys crossed paths down in Ocean City. The two of you, I remember thinking when I would hang out with Keith, I'm like, holy shit, you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Danny. And I think that's a testament, to greatness. So, if you were in Bloom, and I remember the original Harry's, the reboot Harry's, Capitol, all these different things, and yet there you were. And I think it's a testament to your ability, to just be phenomenal in what you do, and to, just not compromise. I think that's another thing. You see a lot of bartenders. Kind of, okay, all right, I'll do this. I can remember now. Again, maybe it's because you and I are friends outside of the show, outside of the the bar. But I can remember the 21-year-olds. Can I get a blah, 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 and I just get the eyes from you. You turn real quick and give me a glance. I'm like, oh, you poor son of a bitch. Like, you'd roll with it, but you would never cave, you would never buckle. Like, you were always you. So kudos to you. And fast forward these 20 years of bartending, and here you are with Rusty Rail Brewing Company, 5 North 8th Street in Mifflinburg.
Correct.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously that doesn't necessarily affect your end of the bargain, but the flagship restaurant and brewery is at 5 North 8th Street, number 1, Mifflinburg, PA, 17844. Call 570-966-7878 for reservations and information. But talk to me about now that you're this fancy-ass regional sales manager, which it feels weird. I can't, like, a title and you in the same sentence, it's weird. Like, I want you behind a bar, like, making faces at people and, that. But, okay, I mean, you have to evolve. Tell me about what you're doing these days. What is a regional sales manager responsible for?
Yeah, man, it's an adapt or die nature. I can't. There's no way that I could be, pushing 40 years old nowadays and still find myself behind a college bar. But what's great is I was able to take that knowledge, things that you learn throughout 20 years of the service industry and how to deal with people, how to talk with not only the customers but knowing what people necessarily, what's going to help them drive their business, what's going to help people, what was going to help me behind the bar. And I'm able to take that story and the experiences that I've had, and transition them into being a salesperson. And I never thought that that's what I was going to turn myself into. That's just kind of how it adapted. And really it's the same thing. I go into these bars or restaurants and I ask them questions, the simple questions of how can I help you? Like, how can I make your business more money? Or how can I, there's got to be an answer.
Yeah.
And I just happen to work for a company that has the solutions. I have a full repertoire of some amazing beers, and it makes my job pretty easy. But at the end of the day, it's building a relationship. It's being trustworthy. People believe what I say is my words, my bonds.
But dude, and that's I think what I was meagerly trying to express too. Again, take friendship aside. It's my first night in the bar, and you're my bartender. For whatever reason, there's a way that you can trust a person right out of the gate, and I think you convey that. And so, if you fast forward and you transfer that into your present day gig, I mean, that is absolutely the perfect fit. And again, like I said in the intro, who better to do this? Who better to throw it across the bow? I don't want somebody who just knows sales. I went to school. I got a 4-year degree in sales. Ha ha ha! I'm going to sell beer now. Ha! Nobody gives a shit what you have to say. Yeah, exactly. Give me the person. I've always said for law enforcement, give me a former criminal. Who better to know patterns? Who better to know things than the person who's been in it? So you in this gig, as much as it pains me to not have you behind a bar, if you're going to go anywhere, Dan, and I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed, I'll
guest bartend for you anytime, man.
Oh, my God. Well, listen, and I know my wife doesn't listen too much, but her 40th birthday is coming this year, so more to come on that. Anyway, moving on. Spoiler alert.
You just might have got yourself in trouble.
Oh, no. There's so much more behind that shit. She has no idea at this point. She might now. But like, it's so cool to have watched, to have been a part of seeing you advance like this. And I think that's why the excitement for me to have you on, like, first of all, Rusty Rail Brewing, the beer is top notch. I can say honestly, down the hill from me, there's this little place called Shortstop, or it was Shortstop. I think it is still Shortstop. You know where the house is, the little gas station on the corner, turning off of 487 of Fowlersville. And in their fridge, they have a handful of locals who I won't name everybody, but a handful of locals. And I can honestly say Rusty Rail rotates out constantly, like it's moving. The others kind of tend to sit. So that's a testament. And I'll be honest, having tasted all of them, Rusty Rail is top-notch. Talk to me about what the best seller is for you right now.
So right now, the best seller is our Fog Monster. It's a New England style IPA. I think if anybody who knows anything about craft beer right now, that's the wave of the future. That's kind of what's hot topic as the kids are drinking, so to speak. It's just that hazy.
The kids in my front lawn. Oh, get off my lawn.
Exactly. 16 ounce hazy boys. That's what the kids are drinking these days, and that's what sells. That's our biggest seller. But going back to just like the start of Rusty Rail, like we have a coffee stout, and when I was behind the bar at Capitol, Wolf King Coffee Stout was put in front of me, and that's really what hooked, line, and sinkered me to go and get this job. I said to myself, okay, if this company can brew beers like this, and continue to do things like this, then I know it's going to be a successful business.
Yeah.
It was one of the first 4 core brand beers that we started with, and it still remains that today. So you got to believe in what you're doing, and so I would say I would hang my hat on those two for sure as our big guys.
That's phenomenal. And again, not to say the others aren't amazing as well, but there's your two to go to. What has for you to date? Again, you were bartending for 20 years. You knew that game inside and out. How long have you been with Rusty Rail now? What, 2 years?
Oh, we're going on 4. Believe
it. Oh my
it.
God, Jesus Christ!
It's crazy.
That's
happened so quick.
That should tell you how often Gret and I get out. So there you go. All right.
Yeah.
So 4 years, but I mean, 4 years versus 20. You're talking 20% versus 100%.
Exactly.
What has been the biggest shift of gears for you? Like, what's been the biggest learning curve going from what you knew to what you didn't, but clearly you know now?
Right. I mean, so like one of the biggest learning curves is I was never a salesperson. Yes, I was behind the bar, and I was serving drinks, and yes, I was always dealing with clients and people, but I wasn't necessarily having to like sell these things. It was you kind of knew what you wanted going into it, or you'd say, I don't know, make me something, and I would provide the best I could. It was a learning curve of actually being.
I had a couple of those, and needless to say, I couldn't find my clothes. I was naked in the hallway, and that's on you. But anyway, go ahead, by all means.
It is on me.
You asshole. All right, moving on.
I'm sure some of the people that I sell beer to nowadays end up that way, too.
Oh, man.
There's quite a few 8%ers out there.
Oh,
I'm
Jesus. That's bad news.
They're slugging them like they're candy.
Why is my dick in the fish tank again? All right.
It's just learning the sales aspect out, the office side of it, having to sit down in front of a computer, type in numbers, and man, is our company valid? Are we doing this right? Is there something more I could be doing? I can go out and I can talk to people and I can sell and I can make you believe in me and my company, but it's behind the doors. It's the paperwork and it's that stuff. And that's, I guess it's part of being a grown up, is doing those kind of things. Careful with the G word. Relax. So, yeah, that's been the biggest curve for me is learning that aspect of it.
Oh, that's awesome. Biggest reward. Biggest reward of the switch, because again, I oddly enough, I switched gears from being a big G lifer to like fumbling through some gigs and finally finding my stride again. And there's this loss of footing, and like you said, that learning of an aspect you never encountered before. But there's also great victory in it. What's been your biggest win? These 4 years, what has been you get up in the morning, you look in the mirror and you go, fuck yeah, I love this because.
So for me, day one, when I signed on with the company, they ask a lot of, well, what are your goals? What are your aspirations? What do you want to do with this company? Blah, 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 through the whole interview process. And one of my number one things was, I want to help grow this company. I want to help expand. And when it comes down to it, going back to my beach days and living down there, I was like, I really want to help grow this company into the Maryland, the shoreline, the Delawares. I really want to help grow and expand, and to help the company over the 4 years. I've really honestly been a part of, I think, all but one presentation to get a new wholesaler. Which is, it's a hectic deal. You have to go in and you have to. So for those of you that don't know the beer industry, for the most part, a craft supplier has to have wholesalers. That's how you get, your distribution in the quickest way. You can go out and self-distribute, but it's nearly impossible. So you get yourself these wholesalers, which could range from your Anheuser-Busch, your Budweiser, and everything else, your Miller Coors houses, or some independents. But you sell your beer basically to them, and then their reps. It's like you have a little army now of going out and selling your beer. So I've been a part of every single one of those wholesaler sales pitches, and honestly, I could say between Guy, my boss, Guy McCarty, and myself, we're probably shooting about 95% when we come into those meetings. And again, it comes down to we have great liquid, but then it's also just they're believing in us. So I know that when I go out and I'm helping Rusty Rail expand and grow, that they're also believing in me and they're believing in like the things that we're saying and that we're doing. So that's been one of the biggest pleasures so far with working for Rusty Rail is watching the growth. To be a part of something that started off in our backyard, something small, knowing that where we wanted to get, knowing that there's still a lot of room to grow, but watching it and being a part of it and knowing that like what I say has a lot of repercussions. So,
well, and again,
has a lot of those rewards.
Yeah, I think Rusty Rail, again, having had, I believe it was the exec chef and somebody higher up, I'm going to kind of parallel look here, but, having them on initially, they sounded like such a great grassroots group that, it sounded just like that. Like they wanted somebody who knew what they were doing, and clearly they got that with you, dude. That's, again, going back to the friendship, I'm proud. I'm so proud of where you've gone, where you've come from, and, again, it's, I think only good things come to good people. So let's talk a little bit about trends in beer. If we want to talk about food and trends, they're all over the place, but I think beer is almost more guilty of this to an extent. So
so many trends.
Oh, Jesus. I know it.
Beer is such a trendy bitch.
It is. You've clearly got your finger on the pulse of trends in the industry. Tell me about what the next big thing is going to be. Like, what are we bracing for a massive impact from? I think maybe the hazies you had mentioned before.
Yeah, everybody's always trying to crack that new code, the new cheat code, and get out there first off the bat.
Yeah.
And there's some leaders of the industry, in the beer industry, that are doing a great job, and they tend to set the curve, and then it's kind of up to the rest of us to maybe follow or whatever. Honestly, you've seen this ginormous spike in these hard seltzers, and that goes back to the bartending and they want these low-calorie drinks, and they want them to taste whatever. So us craft people that brew beer every single day, we see that as a huge challenge because it's not necessarily in our wheelhouse or something that we're doing, but
right.
We notice the sales, and we notice that it's become a competition. And it's not just for the small guys, it's for the big guys alike. So, I don't think hazy IPAs are going to go anywhere. I think they're going to be around forever, and there's always going to be a spot for them. These low-calorie, all-day drinking beers are going to be around as well. I mean, everybody's getting really health-conscious. You're watching your weight, you're watching your calories.
Yeah.
I think that's where the seltzers came from. I'll tell you what, right around the corner right now are these hard lattes. It's basically we've been doing a lot of stuff with coffee. We've been really good at it, but now all of a sudden there's maybe like 5 or 6 groups that are doing these hard lattes where they're brewing this malt sugar base with some really nice coffee, and that might be something that not to throw up any flags or anything, but we might that might be something that's in our wheelhouse because we've been doing so many things with coffee. We know our way around that ingredient, and maybe that's kind of like where we might dabble a little bit with.
Yeah,
but I see a trend towards that for sure.
Sure. So from the food perspective, obviously you say things like latte coffee. Obviously those of us in food, we know the difference between the two, but like beer, so, coffee stout, espresso stout, we know those. The latte beers now, you said they're using more of a malt sugar?
Yeah, so it's like again, don't quote me, I'm not the mad scientist.
Come on, Dan, get your shit together, let's go.
I know, right? Same thing as these hard seltzers. It's a neutral malt base for the most part.
Okay.
That's what they're using. So instead of
it's almost creating kind of like a milky base, almost like a malt powder, but not really.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yep.
Got it. So they're layering that in.
I mean,
so if you imagine malt powder mixed in with the darker beer, it's obviously going to cream it up a little bit and make it almost milky to an extent.
Exactly.
God damn. I've been at this a while, and I feel good about myself right now, Dan.
Yeah, I see. That's where I see the trend headed a little bit. There's a small little niche out there, and I think that's where it's headed. So.
Well, I'll tell you. To be fair, I don't know if it's as small as you're, necessarily portraying from the distributor side of things. The last 3 distributors I've been in, I've seen 3 places with latte beers, and I'm like, God damn, I wonder if, and it's kind of like when I first encountered Woodchuck cider, or when I first encountered, what's something that was also out there? I almost said Zima, then I'm like, holy shit, how old are you, stupid? But basically shit like that where it's like, I wonder, and you have that moment, you walk away from it.
I wonder how long until there's 17 windows full of it.
Yeah, and then Smirnoff Ice becomes Zelensky Ice. Smirnoff Ice was 32 a case. Zelensky Ice was 10, and it gave you a headache, and you were blind, and no one cared. But, So latte beer is going to be the next big trend. Talk to me about a trend you want to see get hit by a bus and have its mother watching.
Oh, I mean, that would definitely be the seltzers. Seltzers are like our worst enemy, and there's just, it is what it is. They take away our tap lines. They're taking our windows, man. No, it's anybody who's out there hustling. I want you to do well for your company and everything else. But man, that is it's a game changer in the craft world for sure.
Let me translate that. Danny doesn't want you to succeed if you're selling seltzer. He wants you to die hungry. You prick.
You sons of bitches. No, again, I'm easy to get along with.
Until you salt seltzer.
Hurt by any meteor falling from the sky, but damn, it's a bad liquid.
I don't want to pull the trigger on the meteor, but if you're selling seltzer, I've got a beeline on your head. So, all right, awesome. Trends, up and downs. What's next for you, dude? Regional sales manager of just an incredible organization, Rusty Rail Brewing. What's next? Is Rusty Rail growing? Are they gonna maybe expand? What's going on?
Yeah, man, we're ever expanding. We're gonna try to do our best to do it the smart way. Expanding into some, so right now we are currently in 6, maybe 7 states. We're Connecticut, Ohio, New Jersey, PA, Maryland, and we just recently have launched our beer into the state of Delaware. Again, day one when I took the job, that's where I wanted to be, where I wanted to help grow the company. We ended up signing with an independent wholesaler there. I think they're going to do a great job for us. And then, it's also on my shoulders to continue to grow a little bit. So I'll be looking to expand into maybe the DC, Virginia, West Virginia market.
Nice.
And at that point, I think we have a nice round portfolio, a nice base. I don't know how much more we'd be willing to grow. We go out to these conventions every single year, the malt beverage wholesaler conventions, and they're hosted out at San Diego or Vegas, which, man, it's been a blessing to be a part of that as well. I love to travel. I do it every single day for my job, but then to just get away on some of these trips and go see some of the cities across our country has been a blessing. But yeah, sometimes we get approached by somebody in Wyoming who loves our beer, and there's always a possibility. It's just a matter of, does it make sense and can we do it? But Rusty Rail is in a position where if it makes sense for us, we're gonna make it happen. So it's, again, ever expanding. We never know.
And really, isn't at the end of the day, isn't that the place you want to be? You don't want to be at the place where you have to do business. You want to be at the place where you want to do business.
Yeah, that's another thing that's evolved. From day one, it was, man, we got to get out there. We got to hustle. We got to pay these bills. We got to make these things work. And it was, it wasn't like a demanding thing. It was like, we need to, because we're working for these great people, and we want to show them, our worth. And now we're at the point where it's like, okay, well, now we can pick and choose and kind of be, make really smart moves that work for our company as well as our partners.
That's it. And at the end of the day, business-wise, that's what you want to do. So, Jesus, Danny, you're all grown up now. You're so big. You're such a big boy.
Just don't tell anybody, man. It'll be our secret.
Well, unfortunately, the whole 7 people that listen to this shit are going to know. So, there's that. Your professional growth and the beard, I think those two go together like peas and carrots, as Forrest Gump once said. So, well done, sir. Well done. Last section, moving on to the afters. So, I'm going to have to shift this up a little bit because obviously no professional kitchen here, but let's say, Danny, you're cooking at home. What music would I hear playing as you cook dinner?
Anything but country, man. Honestly, my music palette is a wide range. One of our mutual friends, Mark, we were out in Vegas and we've seen some EDM concerts. Anything.
Really? Does Mark like techno? Does he like techno?
Oh, no, not Mark. Mark hates that stuff. I think he has robot ears, but no, anything but country, man.
Yeah.
And if it's a Sunday and I'm at home with my family, there's usually some kind of Rat Pack or something playing in the background.
There you go. I was going to say Sinatra. That's got to be in your wheelhouse there.
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right, fictitious question, and I'm truly excited to hear your answer to this. You fucking sociopath. You're going to be stranded on a deserted island. All right, and you can only bring 3 foods or food type items with you. Inexhaustible supplies. They automatically, through the magic of fairies or some shit like that, renew themselves. 3 foods or food type items. What would they be and why?
3 food type items and go. Tacos. Soft shell tacos.
Savage.
Soft shell tacos, you can do anything with them. You can do pork, beef, chicken, doesn't matter. All the great, like, salsas and toppings. I mean, soft shell tacos.
No one has fucking said tacos in 112 episodes. Do you realize that?
Man,
Some of the greatest chefs in the world have been on this show, and no one said tacos. This show is a sham.
No, I mean,
We're done.
I think there's just so many varieties, and I mean, it's got to be tacos.
Got to be tacos. All right, so tacos is one.
Tacos is one.
Fucking brilliant.
Even though I'm on an island and they probably already have it, so I don't need to bring it there. Pineapple. Pineapple is probably one of my favorite fruits. Favorite snacks after working out, after a night out of drinking. Pineapple juice, pineapple chunks. Love it.
All right, so hold on a minute. Time out. Pro tip from the 20-year bartender. And I know this, but maybe not everybody knows this. Why pineapple after a night out?
Why pineapple after a night out? You tell me.
Well, it's a simple sugar factor. It's a repopulation. Yeah. It's that simple sugar. And it repopulates that sugar.
Say, I mean, any good bartender is also going to make sure that you're staying hydrated with your sugars while he's bartending as well. But
that's it.
Man, pineapple, absolutely.
Exactly. It's not for that reason, so stop looking at me funny. Trust me, that helps. I'm not saying you're going home with somebody, but, maybe you want that.
Isn't that an old wives' tale anyway?
Moving on to the next question. So, yes, pineapple, folks, simple sugars keep your body functional the next day. Forget the B vitamins. Relax on those. They help, but the simple sugars, the simple salts help you out. So tacos, pineapple, clearly you're going all pastor here, but what's your third?
Man, I guess I'm a sucker for sweets too. My mom has made pastries every year, our Christmas or our birthday, she makes the birthday cakes and everything. So a chocolate mayo cake with homemade peanut butter icing.
What the fuck is chocolate mayo cake? What?
Mayo. So you're substituting your egg and your dairy, and you're implementing mayo. Makes it extra fluffy.
What?
A little bit of salt content. Yeah, man, chocolate mayo cake. It is delicious.
My brain is like on my desk right now. So you're subbing your eggs for mayo. No shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Your mayo has your oil, your eggs,
your salt,
and you just and your salt. You whip that up in there with your chocolate. Man, it is absolutely banging. Some of the best chocolate cake I've ever had.
Listen,
and then homemade peanut butter icing.
Wow, all you 112 failures prior to this. Where were you when I needed that tip? You were nowhere. Nowhere.
You were nowhere around. You had to
however,
wait this long to get the real.
Exactly. I would like to point out, though, that Danny did not mention any of Rusty Rail Brewing's fine selections to take to the island with him. So, sorry, guys.
Alcohol dehydrates you. I'm going to be on an island. I can't be having that.
Why are you worried about survival when business is on the line, dude? That's your problem, not theirs. Have you ever had the chance to check out My Last Supper by Melanie Denea? It's a coffee table book.
I have not.
Okay. Coffee table book, 50 famous chefs, and they're all asked the same question. Great photography. Melanie Denea is this amazing photographer, and she would take one really stunning picture. The one of Bourdain, for example, he's butt-ass naked with a big freaking beef femur hanging between his legs. So it's that kind of stuff. And they're all asked the same questions centered around, if your ticket was getting punched tomorrow, what would your meal be tonight? So without further ado, Danny, I ask you, you're punching out tomorrow. What's your last meal? What are you drinking? What music is playing? And who's there? Dead or alive, you can pick. You can bring the dead back for that one meal.
Oh, man. That is a really tough question. But it's the simplicity, I think, is in the beauty. I would go with a really fresh cut filet, charred on the edges, rare to medium rare.
Oh, he knows.
Some potatoes, some garlic, potato mash. I'm going to go back to the things that I hated as a child, but absolutely adore them now, is some of those Brussels sprouts, cut in half, grilled with some bacon. That's my plate. I'm probably pairing it with with some lemon water and some Italian red wine, some Dago red wine next to it.
Yes.
I'll plug a Rusty Rail beer in there. It would be a stout or a porter.
Yes. Yes.
You know, and then I'm gonna finish with, like I said, just some like maybe a triple chocolate cake. That's my final meal. That's my final prep. And alongside of me is always going to be my family. My family's ride or die. I don't need anybody dead or alive. You know, they've been with me forever. I've been single, you know, the majority of my life. But what I've gained is just like, you know, your parents are either become, you know, they've become my best friends. You know, my parents are awesome. My sister's phenomenal. My sister has a little kid. It's one of my favorite time is just to sit down and have a meal with my family for sure.
Man, you know, I typically at this point have something smart ass to say, but I got nothing. Cause
bring the smart.
No, I don't. That's the thing. You know, I think when you know somebody, you know, as long as we've known each other, yeah, of course I'm loaded. If it was you, it's Mark. I could lob off, but like when you hear that, you realize the great equalizer in life is food and drink. You know, it's what we aspire to. It's what we center around. It's what we sit around. It doesn't matter if someone's being born or dying. That's what we go to, right? And so to hear you, and I mean, no hesitation. You didn't even flinch. You're like, I know this shit. I know what I want, and I know who's going to be there. Like, wow, dude. Wow.
Biggest room in your house is usually your kitchen. People center around it. That's where that's where the greatest conversations happen. That's where people gravitate towards. It's always been, you know, the center of a healthy family and growing up. I think that's what happens. That's where the magic happens for sure.
Listen up, people. 112 episodes, throw them all out the window. Right here it starts again. Dan Henrickson's like now the new full-time co-host apparently. And well, with your last meal in mind, buddy, one more question, the simplest and yet the most complex. What is food and drink to you in one word?
Food and drink to me in one word is it's bliss.
Jesus Christ, you did it
bliss.
Again. No one in 112. God damn it, man. Yeah.
Just happiness, man. It's bliss. You know, it's nutrition and it's supposed to be there for you, but man, at the end of the day, if it's good for you, it's probably going to taste really good too. It's bliss, man. Good people always surround you.
You know, it bothers me, again, I'll go back to the intro, that it took me this long to have you on. And especially now that I'm like, wow, okay, trendsetter. Like, way to blast, like, every standard question. I'm like, all right, this person's going to say one of 5 things. And here's you with number 6. I'm like, wait a minute, what? But again, I think that speaks to the brilliance, the perseverance, the absolute professionalism, knowledge, and just like phenomenal human being you are, Dan. And you know, I mean that personally. It's so rare that I can actually say this from the bottom of my heart because I don't know most of the people I talk to, but I know you, and I can honestly say, 1, I'm so honored to know you. 2, I'm glad to call you friend, and 3, I'm honored and both proud to see you aspiring to what you're aspiring to. So please keep going, don't stop, and make us all proud.
Too many kind words, man. I appreciate it. You're not too shabby yourself.
I'm all right. I'm passable. Shit, you know
I
me.
appreciate everything.
You haven't seen me naked in a prison shower, so there's that. So, or have you? I forget. Anyway,
it's been a while.
It's been a while. So, Dan, again, man, thank you so much. Rusty Rail Brewing Company, folks, check them out. They're amazing. Fog Monster IPA. Obviously, there's hints of a latte beer being dropped here on the show. You might want to check that out.
Happens.
Yeah, it could
Follow
happen.
us on Instagram. That's the best way.
Yeah. What's the handle on Instagram?
Instagram is Rusty Rail Brew Co. Anything that's happening with Rusty Rail, whether it's the restaurant or the beer itself, Jeff McGreevy is our graphic designer. He's populating that stuff, and you know he'll put some old, some new, keep you in line. But yeah, for sure. And any events that we're out there doing, he plugs that as well. So keep your eye on that. That's our bread and butter right there. So the Instagram's the way to go. Again, it's Rusty Rail Brew Co. One word. For the Insta, again, the flagship, 5 North 8th Street, number 1, Mifflinburg, Pennsylvania, 17844.
Call 570-966-7878 for more details. The website, rustyrailbrewing.com, and again, presence on Facebook and so on. But go out, check them out, man. Google them, look at the Yelp, look at the TripAdvisor. They're blowing up the spot, and this is something you don't want to miss. So again, Danny, I appreciate it, brother, so much. And again, we here at the show wish you all the best.
Sean, it's been a blast. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode number 113 of the Coarse Grind Podcast. With me again this evening, Mr. Danny Henrickson, bartending Bloomsburg legend and current regional sales manager of Rusty Rail Brewing Company. Our producer this evening has been Johnny Leland Robinson, a.k.a. the Reverend Johnny Lamoria. Be sure to check out his rebooted podcast, Cinematic Pig's Feet, with someone you might recognize his voice, I don't know. And next episode, it's going to be time to get chopped. Stay tuned.
Hey, do you like coffee? Do you like gourmet coffee? Do you like really amazing gourmet coffee that's a total steal and just happens to be based on a culinary podcast? Well, look no further. The Coarse Grind Podcast has teamed up with the Mr. G Coffee Company to create the perfect custom blend. Dark as the logo itself with hints of caramel, sea salt, and dark chocolate. It is luxury in a cup at an incredible price. Be sure to check out their site today, MrGCoffee.com, and order some now.